It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, March 20th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is really bummed out about that Canes game because Sabres game was good and I wanted to focus on that, but I don't think we'll be doing that on today's
Listen,
show.
I had to change half my article, not half, but some of it very quickly.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Plus, it's Monday, so we will have our Nemesis of the week all on today's show.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who is on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Flyers. That is where we post about our episodes and Flyers news. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. We do a mailbag almost every week, so send us in your Flyers questions. Locked On Flyers is free and available anywhere you get your podcast, so subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. Russ, there were some interesting rumblings related to the firing of Chuck Fletcher and the promotion of Danny Briere into the interim GM position, having to do with the old guard that we discussed last week, and that they were not consulted.
No, they weren't. Marcus Hayes kind of broke that with the Inquirer. He's always done a good job in the city, and he Dave Scott did it on his own. I think Dave Scott realized that Chuck was probably going to get bumped upstairs otherwise, like we thought, and he felt like he needed to do that. And then he brought in Briere. So nobody was consulted on that. He just did it. So that's interesting. We still don't know what's going to happen with that down the road because it's still interim. We still don't know if Dave Scott will be around after this year because he could retire. Like, he hasn't said anything, but
Right.
there's always been that thought out there. So things are still askew, but it does show that things were desperate enough that he felt like he had to do that. And that's, good for him for making a decision.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I think it is interesting and maybe a good indication that the times they are a changing, in fact. But, obviously, until something more definitive is said and until we get through like the initial maybe week or so after the season ends, we won't know for sure really what the direction is. And so we're just going to wait and have our remaining games until that happens.
Just to X them off the calendar.
Exactly. But I will say, I was actually thinking about this during the Canes game, that I feel much less this year about these games as they're being marked off the calendar as I did last year. Last year felt very much like this countdown of doom. And this kind of feels like, yes, it's a countdown, but also there's much more positivity to look for in some of these games than we had last year. And one of those is, looking at some of the prospects and, the players of the future. Wade Allison checked back in and they decided to burn that call up for Tyson Foerster to keep him in the Flyers lineup. And, gets his first couple assists and his first NHL goal for the weekend.
Yeah, he's done really well. I mean, the goal was really nice. The assists were good. It's nice that he talked about it yesterday, gaining the confidence. We knew he was going to need some confidence for that. The goal he scored was on the rush, so at least at that straight line speed, it wasn't bad. He still definitely needs to work on his edges and other things, but that was good. So yeah, he's working out well. I don't know what it means to the Phantoms because again, it's nice that he got his NHL goal, and I'm always a sucker for that because I love covering those games. But in the end, that will still hover.
Yeah, it will be a big question. And, as of recording, we don't know the results of the third Phantoms game of the weekend, but they lost the first two without Tyson Foerster there. And so on tomorrow's show, when we do Phantoms Tuesday, we're absolutely going to dig into that and see what the differences were and, how much of an impact it could have been, with Tyson Foerster around. But I do want to talk about the line switcheroos that he made in these games. And, we had been sort of hesitant to think that Tyson Foerster playing on a line with Kevin Hayes and Joel Farabee was a good idea because those other two had been struggling. You don't want to kind of bring him down. But lo and behold, Joel Farabee gets that monkey off his back and
Yeah.
scores in both games. So
Got a
happy for
2-game
him.
scoring streak. That's nice.
Yeah, and Tyson Foerster contributed on both versions of the line that
Mhm.
he was on, one that was Hayes centered, one that was Frost centered. Although Torts did switch the lines up a little bit when they were down in that
Yes.
Canes game. But God bless Joel Farabee. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, now we'll see how he finishes out this season. Um, Look, he's still not the same Joel Farabee. I don't know if he'll be the same Joel Farabee next season after the next surgery. I don't know. Jack Eichel is not the Jack Eichel of when he was drafted, but he's pretty close. So you're just looking for him to get pretty close.
Yeah, I think so. And I do want to dig into some more of the individual player stuff. We'll do that a little bit later. But I wanted to talk about the power play a little bit. It was 2 for 5 for the weekend, which still not like exactly where you want it to be, but much better. And I think part of it was because of the top power play unit that they used. So they had D'Angelo and York up at the blue line, and then Owen Tippett, Noah Cates, Tyson Foerster up front. That unit scored in both games.
Yeah, I see. My problem is um, much better against Buffalo. Buffalo's definitely in a little bit of a malaise, and they definitely look better. It wasn't good against the Canes. I know they scored once, but they had two power plays, and
Yeah.
I was writing about this late in the third. You can't not score on both of them and expect to beat a team like Carolina. That's what kept Carolina afloat. And on
Yep.
one of them, Owen Tippett rushed a shot. He had a wide open look on the hash, top corner. Anderson wasn't even there until late, and he completely missed the net. And so, like, while he was coming off the high of a hat trick, this is still something that he's got to work on, and I hope he does.
Yeah, I just think that there's some potential to this unit
Mhm.
for the power play, like if they work on things. And also I think it's extremely instructive that you look at who's in that power play unit. And D'Angelo is the only quote unquote vet in that unit. And
Yeah,
so this is something that maybe you could look for, in the next couple of years and say, is this going to be a quality power play unit that will, bear some fruit?
yeah. No, I think that's fair. I mean, that's something where we're gonna have to see when D'Angelo times himself out here, and maybe that'll be at the trading deadline next year. Who they're going to go to, because you'll only have, I think, what after next year, one more year of Ivan Provorov's contract if he stays. Sanheim is not taking the reins on any of the power play stuff yet. He's had
Mm-mm.
moments where they've thrown him in. Zamula's not ready for that. Maybe in another year, Adder could be. So maybe he could be that guy. York will definitely get some of the power play stuff, but I don't think he's a top power play guy yet. He hasn't exhibited that as far as his shot being accurate and getting on net and doing a couple of those things that you have to do. So that's going to be something to decide. I mean, that's really up in the air right now.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good that they're trying these things though
Yeah,
in order to get a look into some potential combinations there that could work and help inform their decision making. And so I'm just really glad that they're at least getting the information that they need and getting some success out of these combos.
yeah, no doubt.
The penalty kill, on the other hand,
Oh boy.
woof. um, 2 for 5 for the weekend. They had 2 games in a row with a goal against in the final seconds. Like that also vintage Flyers, right?
Vintage Flyers. Tortorella does still talk about not having the right personnel. Okay, I get it. Like, you were dealt a bad hand. That still doesn't mean it can't be better than what it is. And so it's almost like they're just like, look, it's going to be bad, period. And it's like, okay, I mean, that's fine for this year, but you can't default for that every year. Like, next year, they can't do
Yeah.
that, you
No.
know? So right now, fine, I'll just let it go.
Yeah, there's not much you can do. There's only so many ways you can put the pieces of the puzzle together and see what works.
I mean, here's
But
one thought, just one. If you wanted to try and give somebody a role, maybe you give Tanner Lisinski that role because he only got 5 minutes and 29 seconds.
yeah, it's worth a shot, that's for sure. Tanner Lazinski is, of course, one of the younger guys on the team. And, we talked about that power play unit. There's more younger guys who really, I think, showed some interesting things this weekend. And we are going to talk about them coming up next.
Today's episode is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I started using Athletic Greens because I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, hated taking pills and vitamins, and wanted a supplement that tastes great. With a delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced food superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, and focus. It costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. Athletic Greens contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. With your first purchase, all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, Russ. So, one of the things I think that was good about these couple of games this weekend is how much the younger guys really did stand out and kind of took over, at least from a production standpoint. And we talked about that power play. If you look, and we've been talking about Owen Tippett and his lack of finishing, and that certainly got a little better these past couple of games. If you look at the top points producers for the weekend, your top 5 are Owen Tippett, Tyson Foerster, Joel Farabee, No Cates, Morgan Frost. Now, like, Brendan Lemieux was kind of in that mix as well, but he's also a guy that has something to prove and is trying to earn a contract for next year. And so, anywhere. So I was just,
That you stated anywhere. I'm glad you did that.
yes. Yes. So, he has some extra motivation there. And he had a goal and an assist this weekend. But you really look at the production on the Flyers, and it was more heavily weighted toward the younger guys. And I thought that was a really good sign. And really, again, makes me think of more of the positive things about these remaining games this season versus, trying to count off games until till the last one.
Yeah, there's definitely some good play coming from the younger guys. Most of the younger guys. There's still a couple that are struggling, but
Sure.
those guys that you were talking about really good. I think Morgan Frost probably still isn't talked about enough. Like, he's up to 33 points, I think, and so that's something where it's like, he's getting to the point now where people really shouldn't be complaining about him anymore. And I don't know if they're complaining anymore, but I don't know if they realize that what he is doing as far as stepping up and playing in big roles and and coming through. Somebody who's not playing well and has been singled out lately
Well,
is me.
before you do that, I just want to
Yeah.
say for Morgan Frost, 55% of faceoffs won for the weekend.
Yeah.
And he was very well into the positives, plus
Yeah.
minus.
Yeah.
So
No, so he's really looked good. Wade Allison hasn't looked very good. That's a
Right.
thing.
Well, he's always hurt, right?
He's always hurt at least 9 times in a one session. It's talked about. So that's a thing. Uh, Travis Sanheim's still kind of lost in the wilderness there. Maybe that'll change. And Cam York had one good game, one not good game. He was not
Right.
good against Carolina. The the thing is, this defense is pretty much set. Like I said, there's not going to be much changes to it next year. Maybe there's one guy in there that's not in there now. And so the worry for me is when you see a heavy cycling team who's fast like Carolina, the Flyers defense backs off to the point where like Brady Shea just walked in and scored an easy goal, right? Like you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
do that.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what's going to fix that for next year. I don't know if just being a year older and getting this experience is really the answer. I think still it's mentality of the team and them following the structure. And so right now I'm going to trust that John's showing them the right structure and they're just not doing it. But at some point, it's going to be a thing.
I did wonder, why Morgan Frost didn't take that last face off.
We're all wondering. Noah Cates was out there. He was happy that he had the chance to work in a big spot, but he was at 30.8% for faceoffs that game. Again, the problem, and this is where Flyers fans can't have it both ways. You can't tell me that you're going to be able to trade Kevin Hayes and get a good return when he's like the third guy thought of in a big spot for a faceoff, because now he's like the third line center making the money he's making with still like 3 years of term. Like that's the problem here with Hayes. And Hayes was skating really well in that Carolina
Yeah.
game. He was.
Yeah.
And he did well on faceoffs. He was at 53%. All that said, at crunch time, he wasn't there. They didn't
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, and that's a good point about Kevin Hayes and that face off, because I feel like even if he didn't if they put Kevin Hayes in and he loses that face off, he is better at taking the next step to
Yes.
fix it
Yep.
than the other two. And so I feel like just from a defensive standpoint, Kevin Hayes actually might have been the best option for
Yeah.
that face off. But if it's going to be between Cates and Frost, I would have picked Frost in that particular.
Yeah, me too, based on the game he was having and
Yeah.
everything else. But, this is like, again, Torts is like, hey, I'm trusting you, Noah Cates. I'm putting all this on you. And it's like, hold on. Cates is not going to be a number one center ever in this league. Morgan Frost could be. He's got the skill set to be. He may not be in the end, but he could be. Cates isn't going to be. The thing that we have to understand here is if the Flyers are going to supposedly get good value for Kevin Hayes and you never use him in key situations anymore, like this face-off at the end of the game or anything else, how do you expect another team to believe in him? And then the other thing is, does the coaching staff believe that Noah Cates has a better chance to be a top-line center than Morgan Frost? Like that to me is flawed thinking. I understand Cates may be a little better defensively, but Frost is better with faceoffs, at least from what I could see technique-wise. He's a little better hands, a little faster. He needs to get stronger. Cates is stronger than
Right.
he is because he was in the college system. I get it. That's the trade-off right now, but I think this is what the coaching staff has to figure out.
Yeah. One of the other things the coaching staff has to figure out is to not do that 2D 1 forward overtime setup.
Well, yeah, but they're just throwing things out there at this point. Like there is no actual plan. We have to admit this. They're
For
bad in
overtime?
overtime.
Sure.
They're just throwing it against the wall. They just
Yeah,
are.
it's still not working, which is frustrating, especially like when you don't gain possession at all and then lose that way right after giving up that goal with 0.3 seconds left. I mean,
Now,
that was
Aho, to his
brutal.
credit, didn't out the fact that he knew D'Angelo was covering him and he knows his tendencies, but he did. He took what he did say.
Yeah.
Here's what he did say, and I know Aho for a long time. I've covered his whole career. He saw a gap and he went for it. But you know that D'Angelo's going to give you that gap So he had that first step, and that was it. D'Angelo tried to hold him up with like an elbow, couldn't do it, and it's over. And I will say this about Aho, something I hadn't noticed last year. When he got interviewed in between periods by ESPN, he was just kind of like in his shirt, in his undershirt, and he has put on like probably 7 to 10 pounds of muscle. So the
Wow.
fact that D'Angelo thought he could hold him up, he can't do it anymore because he's too strong. And another thing that was probably a little shocking to some, but Brady Shea just pushed down Owen Tippett with one hand, and for some reason,
Yeah.
fans thought like that's a penalty. It's not a penalty. This is just Brady Shea is like 240 pounds of ripped muscle, and this is where Owen Tippett could get a little stronger on his skates for a big guy, right? He's not weak. He's got a certain amount of
Mhm.
strength, but he's not strong on his skates like that. And he's going to go up against battles like that if he's playing in the top two lines.
Yeah, I thought that, play or that hit was a very good lesson for
Yes,
Tippett. I think that
he just
something.
erased them.
Yeah, and I think that'll is something he'll take with him and
Yeah,
learn from it. So,
yeah.
I'm not mad. I'm not
No,
mad at all. All right. It is Monday. We will have our nemesis of the week coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all of the fat and calories, you got to try Built Bar. My goal has been to eat a little healthier this year. And if you want to eat healthy but don't want to compromise taste, I have got just the thing for you. You got to try Built. It's actually tasty. It's covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. And on the healthy side, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, but 17 grams of protein. And now you don't have to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Go to Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're a Sam's Club member, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. So, if you are newer to Locked On Flyers, each and every week on Monday, we look at the upcoming week and we look at what's going on in Flyers land in the world of hockey and say what is getting to us the most, what is making us the most nervous about this upcoming week. And last week on the show, we talked a lot about the discourse about who to bring in as president, GM, all those other potential positions that are out there. People are already throwing out names, just within minutes of Chuck Fletcher getting fired. And, we don't want to hear this churn until we really know what the plan is. At least that's what my
Mhm.
nemesis was. I didn't want to dig into the weeds on names quite yet. And that's what we did last week, right? We talked about just
Mhm.
kind of the process for player evaluation. We talked about some potential new positions with not necessarily names attached to them for the front office and how things could improve. So I feel pretty good about how we attacked our nemesis last
Me too.
week.
I thought we did a good job with that.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to those episodes, go back and take a listen. For me this week, the nemesis is loser points. I don't want any more loser points. Like I want the Flyers to win a game outright, to help with development, to help with confidence, or lose in regulation. We have so many loser points, and that is what is killing us in this draft lottery thing. And that's how I can have it both ways with wanting them to
Mhm.
win, but and win some games, but also like understanding what the implications are for the lottery.
Yeah, I think that's a well said piece. Mine's a little different. So after Net just scored his goal, right? Did you notice that the Carolina played to the bench and they looked at this device? They have a device on their bench that the Flyers don't. I think it's an iPad, and they looked at it and they instantly knew they won the game. The Flyers players, however, didn't have that at their disposal, and they're just kind of sitting around like waiting for the referee to make the call. And that's where I'm sorry, you still have to embrace technology that is there for you. And the fact is, that was a stark difference of the two teams. Like I saw one team with the iPads, one team didn't have them.
Well, okay. So here's the thing, Russ, is that I think there's a happy medium here. I think there's you don't look at the iPad after every single play throughout the game and have it be like a huge aspect of it. But if it's something important like that, you pull it out and you look at it right away. I think that is fair. If there's
I think that's
a
fair too, but they're not
and
doing it.
using it for, looking to see whether a play was on sides or the, legality of the play or the,
But the coach
is
is
the
doing it, but the players.
yeah, yeah, that's fine. I think but there's a difference between using it for rules purposes and using it for coaching purposes. And I think there's a happy medium for
Well,
both,
they need to
but
strike that balance
yeah.
because right now they don't have it.
Yeah, yeah, but very different situations for using the iPad.
Okay.
I will maintain. All right, that will do it for today's show. Our Flyers fun thing is, of course, Tyson Foerster's first NHL goal. Man, could not be happier
Yeah, I
for
was
that
really
kid.
happy for him.
It was so good. And like you said, it was a really nice goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a cheat or
Nope.
anything, and it
Nope.
was not empty
Didn't
net.
bounce off somebody and he gets it.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Owen Tippett's hat trick. I'm like, no empty netter
Right.
to seal it. So when you have your first hat trick in the NHL, good to see that it was all on
Yeah.
pure goals, right?
He's great. Yeah.
And so same thing for Tyson Foerster. Really, really happy for him. The smile on his face, like, could have powered the entire building.
No
So
question.
I was really thrilled for him. We will be back tomorrow. We are going to preview that game against the Florida Panthers, who are in a playoff race that they need to be winning some games for. So they have a lot of motivation there as well. We will do our Phantoms check in, where, like I said, we're going to talk about perhaps the impact of Tyson Foerster not being there on where they are in the standings. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. Send in your questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. Now make your next listen Game to Game NHL. It's every moment, every top performance, every result. They cover every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. It's on the Locked On NHL feed, available anywhere you get your podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.